Let's take a look at some of the basic uses of the command line in BibleWorks. The command line is used to search for words or verse, as it says there in the command line, but there are all kinds of commands that you can enter there to change to new verses, to run searches, to even open up various tools in BibleWorks. You can access the command line by clicking on it, or if you're working in another part of the program, you can hit the escape key a couple times, and then you'll see a blinking cursor there in the command line. If you'd like to switch to a whole new book, chapter, and verse, you can just type in the verse reference. Let's say we want to switch to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. You can type in MAT, you can type in the whole book name, or just use the first three letters of the book. Those are common book names in BibleWorks. So I'm just going to use MAT. I'll put in a space, then 1 for chapter 1, and then I can use a colon, I can use a period, I can use even a space there, just one of those three to separate the chapter from the verse. Then I'll put in 1 for verse 1. Hit enter on the command line, and that switches the browse window over to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. You can type in a whole range of verses to view, and that'll take all your display versions and put in the range of verses. Let's say I want to put in Matthew 5, 3 through 11. Hit enter. Now it's put all those verses into the command line in the versions that I have on display in the command line. Notice that when you switch to a new verse, it will go back to the single verse display. There is an option under Tools, Options, Command Line Search Options to remember command line ranges if you wish to set that. So now when I type in that verse range, Matthew 5, 3 through 11, hit enter. Those will display when I move to a new verse. It will go back to single verse display, but when I go back to Matthew 5, 3, it'll keep that range of verses that I wanted to view there all together. So that remember command line verse ranges can be very helpful. If you wish to navigate to a new chapter and verse in the same book, you can just type in 2, 3 or space 3, hit enter, and it moves you over to chapter 2, verse 3. Let's say you want to go to verse 6 in that same chapter. Just type in 6, hit enter, and now it's moved you to verse 6 in that chapter. Now the way the command line distinguishes between whether you want to conduct a search or move to a new verse is by using a control character on the command line. There are 3 basic control characters that are used, and they correspond to different types of searches. A period is called an AND search. When you type in a number of words after the period and then hit enter, it's going to find all the verses that have those words. So if I have a period typed in and then I type in faith and works, if I'm searching an English version, hit enter, it'll find every verse that has both faith and works in it. Another type of search is an OR search, and the control character for an OR search is the /. So if I type in a / and then I type faith and works, and I hit enter, it finds verses that have either works or faith or works. So as we look through our various search hits, we find that just one of those words is often found, or if both words are found in the verse, it'll also find that as well. And then the last most common control character you might use is a single quote mark, or the apostrophe. That's used for a phrase search. So after you type in the single quote mark, if you type, say, Kingdom of God, and hit enter. It'll find all instances where that phrase is found in your current search version. So it's necessary to use a control character before the words that you search for. And control characters work with English, Greek, any other language versions that you're searching. If I switch to the BGM as my search version, which is a Greek morphology version that works alongside the BGT, these versions combining the Septuagint and the Greek New Testament, I type in a period, and then I start to type a word. Notice that the command line allows me to type in Greek and search for that word. As you're getting to know these command codes, the period, the forward slash, the single quote mark, there are some helps in the program. You can click here where it says toggle code helper buttons, and it's also an indicator of some of the options that you can set for the command line. But if you click on this location in the command line versions button, notice that it'll display a set of code insertion buttons. These can be helpful to click on to enter a control character on the command line. You can also hold your mouse cursor over them to get a reminder of just what that character does. You can toggle those off by clicking here again, or there's a way to view them by right-clicking on the command line and choosing code insertion buttons, or turning them off. If you like using the mouse, you can also add control characters by right-clicking on the command line and clicking to insert search parameter code, and they're available for you there with an explanation of what that code does. You can also find some good help for working with the command line by holding your mouse cursor over the command line and hitting the F1 key. That opens you to this chapter in the help file on the command line examples and shortcuts. And there are some great examples listed there in a table showing that if you have this search version, you type this on the command line, this is what the program's going to do. Using F1 on the command line and then viewing this chart and the other information there that talks about command line shortcuts and such can be very helpful for you to see what types of searches you can conduct from the command line. Using these examples, you can then determine how to conduct searches for the information you want to find in the version that you're studying. At some point, you may make a mistake in what you type on the command line. Use the up arrow on your keyboard to fix the mistake. It'll return the command line back to the last search command that you entered. Then you can modify your search or the command that you just entered and adjust it to the command that you wish to enter. It's a great time saver for using the command line. The command line searches a particular search version, and that search version is listed here, listed at the top of the browse window, and also appears in blue in the browse window. You can change your search version just by typing the version abbreviation in the command line. If I want to search the NAS, I can type NAS and hit enter. Or I can double click here on the version abbreviation for a version that's displayed in the command line, and that switches my search version. Or if you'd like to use the menu, you can go to search and choose search version and pick from a list there. Knowing your search version for the command line is important not only for searches, but for working with other parts of the program. For example, the search version is the version that will be switched to when you toggle between browse mode and multiple version mode. We see here browse mode, and then back to multiple version mode. The search version is also the version that's used to display information in the analysis window for tabs like the words tab, which gives you a list of all the words in that version. The context tab or the Stats tab after you've conducted a search.